Hey, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. Man, what a difference a year makes. A year ago today, me, E2 Blue, and Michael Anthony were driving our ass off to Dallas because I screwed up and messed up on my plane tickets and had made them for the following week, which would have been the game against the Washington football team in Washington. Didn't need them that weekend. But we were busting a hump to get there because, well, we love football. So this year, things are a little different. The Cowboys are on the road. We're at home. So I am working on getting actually my pulled pork together. So I've had some people that have been asking me how I do stuff. So I'll do the chicken wings tomorrow. When I'm doing those, I'll show you guys exactly what I do to get my chicken wings and things together. And right now, I'm getting ready for my pulled pork. So what we're going to do is we got 3 pork shoulders. And I'm going to show you the way I do mine. Now, understand, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way or the wrong way or whatever. It's the way that I like to do it, and it gives it my own personal taste. And the thing I say about cooking is always experiment and try different things. You may like something of one place and all that, but you tweak it a little bit. You know, I call it markizing it, which is just kind of putting my own little personal spin. Because we all have certain spices that we love. Me, I love Chipotle chili powder. It's just got a good kick to it and a burnt taste to it, but that's one of my things. I love cilantro. I love rosemary and thyme. In fact, you'll see I've got actually rosemary and basil and stuff growing in my windows because I love fresh herbs. So don't condemn somebody else because they do it differently than you. Understand, we're all a little bit different. I know some people will be like, oh my God, you use a propane smoker. But hey, that's what I do. I love using the propane because it keeps that temperature consistent. I get my wood in there and everything else, which gives me my good smoke and flavor and stuff with it. But it helps me to be able to not have to sit there all day, all night because, hey, I'm a busy guy. So here's what we're going to do. First thing, everybody's rub's a little different. I know Texas rub is not a sweet rub. That's okay. That's cool. That's cool. I like my barbecue sweet because I end up putting, my barbecue sauce that I make myself on there and stuff. So again, everybody has a little different taste. So I'm going to tell you what I do for mine, okay? I put about, because I've got 3 of these, I'm going to put about 3 cups roughly of sugar. Now I'm kind of bummed because I've been having a hard time finding my Chipotle chili powder. I found it at Giant, but they want for a little bottle. They want $9 for a little bottle of it. I'm like, the fudge? Walmart sometimes will have it, but again, everybody is running short on stuff these days because of the pandemic. All right, so actually, I got a lot of shoulders here. I need a little more sugar than that. All right, so we got our sugar in here, okay? I like cinnamon. Don't judge. Don't judge. Okay, so about a teaspoon of sugar of cinnamon. I like my paprika. I need to go by Mama's house because she grows her own peppers and she makes her own smoked paprika. I just didn't have a chance to get it. I used up all of it. Some cayenne pepper. I like it sweet and I like a kick. So about a teaspoon of that. All right, cumin. Cumin is like the secret sauce. Cumin I love putting in my chili. It's got a great taste to it. So again, about the same amount of that. Garlic salt. I don't use just straight regular salt. I like garlic salt because it's got the kind of garlic flavor to it. And it has a little bit of like parsley flakes with it as well. You want to put about twice the amount of garlic salt in there that you do of the other spices. I would normally put Chipotle chili powder, but I don't have any right now. So about a teaspoon of that. And this is an island getaway. Shout out to you, Big Wizzy. If you can get me something that's like this too, I'll definitely buy tons of it. But this is like a Caribbean style all-purpose seasoning. I end up putting a little of that in there because it's kind of got the Jamaican spice, man. All right, so we're gonna mix this on up. And then I'll kind of taste it. Oh, I got to put pepper in there too. Taste it because I want a sweet sweet cinnamon with a little bit of a kick to it. And if it doesn't have the kick to it, then we add a little bit more of the cayenne pepper to it. But what the sugar will do is it'll also help with the bark. Oh yeah, it's got the kick. Just a little bit more cinnamon. Can't taste the cinnamon. I can take the paprika, I can taste the salt. And I need to put some fresh pepper in there too. Again, this is my style, okay? If my style scares you, just don't come over and eat, okay? All right, one more little taste test. Yeah, that's the ticket. Okay, so we got our rub. All right, now this part may end up really getting some of you guys mad at me. Now, I've had a hard time finding regular cooking gloves that fit my hands and that don't tear. The little thin ones, my hands are kind of big, but I was fortunate that I've actually found a 10-pack set of these heavier duty ones that are actually reusable. Just make sure you clean it with some bleach and stuff and things. And you want to be careful with pork because pork, of course, you want to make sure you don't cross-contaminate. I've got bathroom bleach that I spray down everything with to make sure that I don't cross-contaminate anything, and I use a different cutting board. Now, sometimes, here we have our fat layer. Depending on where you're getting them, sometimes you have a really big fat layer, and you'll have the skin on it. This one actually has a kind of a small fat layer, so I'm just going to cut a little bit of this off. Shout out to my brother Tony, who is getting some chemo and stuff done and having a bit of a hard time. But you see this knife right here? This is one of his Ulu knives that he actually has a patent on. And these things are modeled after the Alaskan Eskimos blubber knives. And the thing that's great about it is the handle is great grip. You don't lose it, even though, you know, I've got these rubber gloves on here and I'm grabbing a hold of the fat. You don't lose the grip of the knife. And the sucker is sharp as can be. It's real sharp. And so we're just going to take this extra little bit of fat off of here. This actually, I'm surprised, is actually I could have left this fat on here because there's no skin, but I just want to get it down a little bit more. Okay, that's one. Put him on in there. We got two more because, well, it's game day. Now, I got these. Here's a little known secret. I don't know if you guys have memberships to like BJ's and things like that. BJ's is a lot like Costco. And I buy there because I can buy in bulk. Here's an interesting thing that you'll find out about BJ's is, and I found this out because of tailgating, if you buy 6 of these, you actually can buy a case, you can actually get a case price and you get an extra 10% off. And so last year when we were doing the FedEx Field tailgate, I think I did 15 of these. So when you're buying that much to feed a lot of people, 10% adds up to a big savings. And these days, anywhere you can save is like found money. number 2. Not to be confused with Odell Beckham's number 2. All right, get the fat layer off of this one, and then we're ready to rub. And when I do my rub, normally I would do it the night before because first thing in the morning I would start smoking. But I'm actually not going to do these until this evening. I'm going to start probably about 6 o'clock, and it'll take anywhere from 10 to 15 hours. And that's where you have your digital probe in there to get that temperature right at about 195 to 200 degrees for the meat. And that's where it gets nice and tender. So now here's what I do. Now again, this is where I'm going to lose some of you guys because you're going to say, oh my God, what's wrong with him? Why would he do something like this? Hey, listen, remember, cooking is one of those things that there's not just one way to do stuff. You might end up learning something that's a little bit different than what you do that might actually be beneficial. And this is what I learned some years ago. I don't know if it's right, but it's something I kind of got stuck with doing now. So what I learned is put mustard on your pork shoulder before you end up putting the rub on it. I know this is where bye. I'll see you later. I understand. I understand. The mustard, you don't taste the mustard later. You don't. But what it ends up doing is, and I think, and this is what I believe, I don't know for sure, but what I notice is when I go ahead and put the rub on it, you get a lot of liquid that comes out of it. And it actually makes like a glaze. It helps the rub really stay onto the meat, and it seems like it's tenderer. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on this, but this is what I believe. And so don't make me go against my beliefs. So what I do is I put mustard on the pork shoulders. Yeah, mustard. Yes, mustard. Now, Jet, Jet might be coming. Jet, he's got his Instagram channel and his YouTube channel. And see, he used to be like he used to be a bull rider. Bull rider. And he does some incredible barbecuing. And my wife, see, I got this mic on. You might not have heard it, but my wife went, You know what? I'm getting worried about some of you guys out there between Stuart Morrison and my wife's fantasy football. There's just something about that. You and my wife in fantasy football. And now I said, Jet's barbecue. And she goes, Okay. So you see how I've got my mustard spread around real good in here? Oh, man. See, the thing with barbecuing that most people, this is a gnarly, gristly piece of meat. And if you don't cook it the right way, it's going to taste like a gnarly, greasy piece of meat. Okay? But when you cook it slow and low, as they always say, at about 225 degrees with that smoke, it renders the fat. It basically melts it, and it goes into the meat and makes it tender. All this fat that you see right now will be gone. And actually, this looks like a lot of meat, but it's going to be reduced by somewhere between a third and a half, depending on how much fat you have on it. And so that's where you end up having to make sure that you have plenty of them. So when I cooked the 15, which was like 80 pounds worth of meat, 80 pounds, that we had at the game with the Washington whatevers, it wasn't as much as you would think it is. The other thing I found out too is the smoker I have, and you'll see that in the next edition, I had basically 3 shoulders on each of them which made it a little bit crowded. And so it took longer to cook because the smoke and stuff had to dissipate between more of them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cover each of these real good like this. And then it's 10:45, about 6 o'clock tonight. I'm going to start cooking them. But what I'll do is, because what's going to happen is, you can see how it's already beginning to kind of glaze and melt into it, is there'll be liquid on the bottom. I'll put another little thin coat on it before I put them in the smoker. And one other tip too, before you put them in the smoker, take them out of the refrigerator for about 30 minutes so it gets closer to room temperature before you put it in. You don't want it to be stone cold going into the smoker, because then it's going to be cold in the inside of it and it gets the shock of the heat. You want it to actually just warm up just a little bit. So that's what I got. So this is step one. Later, I'll end up doing step two, which is putting them in the smoker. All right, I'll see you soon.